What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Brave and Faithful podcast. Today, I have a very special treat for you guys. I have a Marine veteran, and she's also an award-winning journalist. She works as the news producer for Good Morning Charlottesville, and also serves as the board of directors for military veterans in journalism. I have none other than Babee Garcia. Did I say that right? I hope.
Yes, yes, you pronounced it correctly. Thank you. And hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Um, so maybe again, I appreciate you taking the time. Can you just, um, you know, first off, tell us a little bit about your service. When did you serve, and how long did you serve for?
Sure. So I was an aviation supply specialist in New River, North Carolina, for Miles 29. And um, I enlisted back in 2013.
Mm.
I went to boot camp in Paris Island, served in the Marine Corps, by the way. Uh, yeah. So I wanted to, make a difference and gain some independence by joining the military. So I decided to go for the toughest branch. Um my dad served in the army prior, and my grandfather on my mom's side, he was a general in the Cambodian army. So
Mm.
I have military in my blood. I didn't discover it until later in life. So maybe perhaps that triggered a little bit of motivation for me to serve, but it was mostly just for me to gain independence, discipline, and just, kind of explore the world and to meet different people. So I went to boot camp in 2013 and went to MOS school later and eventually went to the fleet. And to kind of break it down Barney style for those non-vets that are following this, I basically inspected, delivered, and maintained aircraft material for helicopters. So they were called consumables. So it's like very small parts. They range from bolts to nuts to um, shelf life gear, things like that. So I served on active duty until 2016. Within that same year, I transitioned on to college to eventually study journalism.
So has that always been kind of like your passion, journalism? How did you start pursuing that career?
Yeah, that was always on my mind. I discovered my love for journalism actually when I was around 8 years old. I was watching news with my mom. It was mostly crime related shows, like stuff that you would see on Discovery, ID. I think that was the channel that it is now. But before that, it was 2020, ABC's 2020. And I remember seeing Diane Sawyer, Elizabeth Vargas, Barbara Walters, these outstanding uh, pioneer women of journalism, just telling these important stories. And I would just ask my mom questions like, you know, what would happen to the Menendez brothers now, when their case was going on, or, on America's Most Wanted, um, you know, did they capture this guy or this person?
Right.
So I was just very inquisitive at an early age, and I knew that combined with my love of writing and asking those questions, I want to make that into a career. So later on, I tried out different activities in high school, and it just confirmed my passion for journalism further. But I still wanted to figure myself out more and search for that motivation to fully go all the way in journalism. So I guess serving in the military first allowed me to, discover who I am and solidify my purpose.
Right.
and making sure that I had a strong foundation in something else to propel me to whatever career I wanted to go to. But journalism was always a part of my plan.
So what do you think? How do you think the military kind of help you prepare into the field of journalism, into what you're doing now?
And that is an excellent question because there's so many skills and experiences in the military that translates to a successful career in journalism. You have to think, you have to be detail oriented in the military. You have to work well under pressure with a team. And in journalism, you're working with your colleagues in a newsroom. As a producer now for Good Morning Charlottesville, I have to communicate with the anchors, the reporters, the control room people, and just make sure that we're all on the same page to produce a 2-hour morning show. So it requires a lot of discipline too. Being able to get up early, stay late is, it might sound like the easiest thing to do, but for some people, they don't have their bodies or their minds trained,
Right.
to carry out the discipline that it takes for for their careers. So I was very fortunate that I had a strong foundation from the military with those skills and utilizing them to my advantage as a journalist.
So you mentioned, getting up early, staying late, kind of like similar to, still being in the service. So a lot of people might not know, the like the ins and out, maybe the uh, how being a journalist, how that is. Like, can you kind of just briefly describe like your day-to-day job as a journalist? How does that go?
Sure. So as a news producer, I'm responsible for managing and kind of organizing the content of what goes in a 2-hour morning show. So making sure that I'm keeping up to date with what is trending online and also what is the most important information I can push out to the public. And part of that is editing and writing news scripts. And the way that you tell stories for TV news, it has to be short, sweet, and to the point. Because in the morning, you have people that are on the commute. They're on the go. They need
Right.
to get to work. They need to drop their kids off at school. How fast and how efficient can I push out these many stories within 2 hours? So when I get into work, I see the computer and I go on the system where I compose what is called a rundown of the show. And it takes me a few hours to, put each story together. And then I'm going back to review it. I'm reading it out loud as, I'm trying to think, put myself into the mind of, our viewer. So I'm making sure that it is concise for me to understand what the story is about as a viewer. And I'm thinking about my audience as I'm going back and playing each story. Um, and then the anchors come in at around, 3:30, 4 o'clock. Um, that's that final hour of prep, and cutting videos and making sure that everything runs smoothly before we go on air at 5 o'clock in
Okay.
the morning.
So do you already have like stories, like before you go into work, do you already have like stories in mind, or like you said, you already review all that stuff beforehand?
For the most part, yeah, because even though my shift is designated from 11 to 7 in the morning, I my brain is just like on a constant news cycle where I'm checking Twitter and Facebook
Yeah.
and looking on TV news channels,
Yeah.
to making sure I'm up to date with what is going on in the world. Like everybody wants to know what is going on with the stimulus package, for example. So that's something that I need to kind of like keep track of.
Right.
And that's something that I can go back to when I do clock in for my shift and be like, hey, this is what I'm incorporating at the top of the show because it's the most important. But yeah, that's an example.
Okay. So maybe, I was kind of reading your website and your bio. You had mentioned uh, 2018 Hurricane Maria. So you guys went down there and filmed like a documentary. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and how was that experience for you?
Sure. So for spring break 2018, my team and we went to Puerto Rico to document stories on what happened after Hurricane Maria. And it was my first time not only producing multimedia stories, working with cameras, editing on Adobe Premiere, things like that, because I've been mostly working in the student newspaper doing print work. So I was working with my my professors, three really motivating and they are also my friends to this day. Um, so they joined us, and along with like 11 other or 12 students from Montclair State University, my alma mater. So we all went to Puerto Rico for 1 week, and we each told a different story on what was impacted on the island. And it was from tourism to education to food distribution to um, just all sorts of things. And um, my story was about a local celebrity chef, Chef Ventura Vivoni, who worked with World Central Kitchen, who has been distributing and making food during disaster relief, um, as
So
part of disaster relief.
he's
And
done that before in the past.
yeah, he's worked with Chef Andres. He's a very popular, well-known chef as well, known for
Okay.
his humanitarian efforts. So Chef Avoni, his volunteers, and World Central Kitchen, they all teamed up to help feed people in need. And during these, critical times where, the elderly are bedbound and they can't, get food from themselves, Chef Avoni also, made house calls. He would personally deliver the food to the people. And I just thought that that experience in storytelling, it just really makes you think, this is why I got into the field that I was meant to be in, because I found the heart of the story. And it was all like a really good learning experience for me to not only work with, my professors and other students and my peers, but it also made me grow, just kind of reporting in a crisis situation,
Right.
not knowing what to do really until I actually got there and observed and just, learned to ask questions and um, just to, tell the story as best as I can.
Would you say would you say that experience, or those moments, were kind of like some of the difficult moments you've had in journalism?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of them because I was overwhelmed with the emotion. These people have been impacted by a natural disaster that, 6, 7 months later, they still needed help. Their electricity was still turned off in some places. Um, some, needed medical attention. There were roads that were, just, covered with trees, debris, and, cracks. It was just like, these are people that need help. This
Right.
is a US territory. Um, And, like they they need as much help as they need from the government, and just to absorb all that and really acknowledge the struggles that they're going through. But yet Puerto Ricans are also people that, they would give their shirt off their back for somebody in need. They may not have a lot, but the community is so caring, and the spirit of Puerto Ricans I will never forget. Um and just to learn like different ways of storytelling for the first time in an unfamiliar place, that was also overwhelming, but I I was determined to, make it work and to really get as much from this experience as I could. And it worked out for all of us. And I'm just so proud and thankful for being a part of that team.
That's awesome. So, what would you say was the most rewarding moment or experience you've had since becoming a journalist?
I just think that whenever I stick to the fundamentals of journalism and I tell stories with passion and purpose, I feel like that's the reward itself. I've won awards with my team for our reporting in Puerto Rico. Um, and I'm so grateful for those moments as well. But when I'm telling stories that, are of affected communities, are of underserved communities, and also, just alerting the public in, what's going on in this world. Like it makes me feel proud, and it's just a reward in itself.
That's awesome. So, for those of you guys just joining in, again, talking to award-winning journalist and Marine veteran Babee Garcia. So, Babee, I want to get your opinion on, some of the things like that's on the news right now. Uh, there's a lot of divisiveness divisiveness that's going on. Um, what is your opinion on like some of these news outlets and kind of just like how they're reporting whatever story that's going on in our current situation in the world?
Well, just by observing some outlets in particular on how they, how they tell their stories, like I feel like they have a certain agenda that they want to push, like it's one-sided. And
Right.
as journalists, you need to be fair balanced. You need to have neutrality when it comes to storytelling, because there's two sides to every story. There's two sides to each coin. And it's just like, when you're talking with your friends and they tell you, oh my God, this happened. Um, you want to know their side, of course, but you also want to know, like, from the other person's point of view or perspective. And it's just very important nowadays, especially with the pandemic going on, where there's a lot of different sources on the internet, on TV, that misinformation can be pushed further, and more people are sharing that misinformation, and then it just um the accuracy isn't there anymore. So, there's a lot of different information and stories flown in every direction.
It's a
And
lot easier to get it out now. Like,
exactly, yes,
yeah,
it's accessible.
yeah,
But at the same time, we also, as consumers of the news, we need to be media literate, meaning we need to pay attention to the details within each story so that we're not sharing misinformation to our friends, to our family, and then they're reposting it on their end. So looking out for, like as simple as misspellings in an article, that's a red flag there.
mm.
Like you should know that.
Attention to detail.
Exactly. It's attention to detail. If you see misspelling or some sort, it's a no-no.
Right.
If you see an altered image within the story, also a red flag. So just preparing more news consumers to be media literate, and also for journalists to just stick to the basic fundamentals, making sure that, you are interviewing at least 2 to 3 people as opposed to one, because, you don't want to be one-sided. I think applying those kind of ethics are important.
When you say like interviewing like 2 or 3 people, just, I mean, 2, 3 different viewpoints and
Mhm.
perspectives, right? Like not just
Yes,
like one that's going to cater to your audience or whatnot. Okay. So,
exactly.
so baby, can you give our audience, so if somebody is listening right now, they're interested or they might have that, same passion as you have in pursuing a career in journalism, what would your, I guess, advice or actionable step that they can take right now and into that career?
The first piece of advice I would recommend is to find a great mentor. Mentorship is so important, as many veterans may know. Um, I had a couple in the Marine Corps, and I'm thankful for them and what they taught me. And that still applies to when when a military service member gets out. A mentor is there to be a good support system for you. If you have any questions, you should be able to find a mentor, that, is available and that can really show you the ropes, and teach you so much about journalism. And, I've had great ones, and I still do to this day, um, as part of a nonprofit, Military Veterans in Journalism, and my alma mater at Montclair State University. And I guess, more pieces of advice I would recommend is just number two, to network.
Mhm.
The pandemic has made it easier to network, I believe. There's a lot of social media engagement nowadays. I feel like journalists are more, like, are more friendly. Well, not to say that they weren't friendly before, but they're more receptive and open to hearing from other journalists on their struggles to, break into this industry. And I think that, just shoot one of the journalists like a message on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or on their professional page, and just introduce yourself, because that's how I got my foot in the door with this nonprofit. I actually reached out to Marine Corps vet Russell Maduri. He was my mentor, and he still is my mentor. So I reached out to him randomly on LinkedIn, and this was before the organization officially launched.
Right.
And just by being naturally curious, I asked, like, can we connect? And, doing something as simple as that can really make a difference. And the last thing I would recommend is just to study and observe other journalists that you are a fan of. For me, it was Barbara Walters, Elizabeth Vargas, Diane Sawyer, you know, Oprah Winfrey. I was watching her shows a lot too. But, having um an idea of what kind of beats that you want to cover from other journalists, um from their reporting, observing their reporting, or just, following them along, because you may not necessarily follow in their same career path, but, you know, their work may serve as a blueprint, or, as a way to navigate to, through your career.
What are some things that you're looking for or you should be looking for in a mentor?
Hmm. Honesty.
Mm,
Because, you have to have some tough skin to not only be a journalist, but just to accept criticism well. And
right.
honesty, I'd rather you give it to me straight instead of sugarcoating things for me. And it's an important trait. It's a very important trait to have for a mentor. Um, so honesty, um, kind of encouraging, you know, kind of like to uplift you and say, hey, you did a good job. Keep going with this. You're going somewhere. I think positive reinforcement and encouragement is important in leadership. And, to have that quality within a mentor would be great. And um, also availability. I think that, if I have a question late at night or early in the morning, and you know i I wouldn't want to rush you or anything
Right.
to respond to me, but at least within a few hours or like the next day, I would so appreciate that. I'm very responsive to emails, and
Yeah, you are. That's a
yeah, I
you're
try not to wait longer than a day.
yeah.
So if a mentor can just be on that same page and respond in a timely manner, that's a win.
Yeah, I just want to say that you're through our communication on email, just messaging each other, you're very responsive. So I want to shout out to you for that.
Thank you.
um, so yeah, so you brought up honesty. I mean, like I think that's in any mentor in any field that you want to go into. Um, it's important that they're honest with you because if they're not, they're not really helping you grow or helping you, to succeed in improving. So um,
Exactly, because I I'm the type of person where I don't want to be complacent. And
yeah.
without honesty, we can't grow, like you said. We can't get better. We can't seek self-improvement.
Mm.
So, you know, they say that honesty is the best policy. I believe it when it comes to mentorship.
It's awesome. So, so you mentioned earlier, and we kind of talked about it, military veterans in journalism. Can you tell us a little bit about this nonprofit, and maybe how are some of our listeners who are interested, how can they get involved?
Sure. So, Military Veterans in Journalism is a nonprofit organization where we're advocating for more veterans to be placed in newsrooms across America and the world. So, we provide opportunities, workshops, programs, internships, fellowships, educational type of opportunities for our veterans to grow and really sustain success in this profession. It's very competitive, and like 7%, and this is according to a recent report from Zach Batter, who is our executive director slash co-founder. He was saying in Pointner that 7% of America's population is consisting of military veterans, and only 2% are media workers. And that data is according to the US Census Bureau. So that, of course, is a small number, and we're just trying to change that and
Right.
make sure that more newsrooms can see that there's so much value that veterans bring to journalism, and using their experiences in foreign policy, national security, global affairs, just the experiences and the skills that they develop on deployments, on detachments, on just working in the fleet, and just really knowing like the military jargon. It's useful in every newsroom, especially now we have the recent Capitol insurrection that happened last month, where, we're seeing a lot of news with military veterans participating, within that riot, who are being caught, and the other side that are defending, the Capitol. So in those type of situations, we're, encouraging more veterans to, check us out, to follow the work of our community members. We have veterans that work for the Associated Press, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and other, outlets, both big and small markets. And if you want to volunteer or donate to our nonprofit, we're open to accepting any help that we can get, because we're just trying to make a difference in all newsrooms.
How does one volunteer with your nonprofit?
Well, you can sign up on our website. It's mvj.network. And underneath there is a section where it says you can volunteer. You would have to click on a link within our website. It'll direct you to a form that you would have to fill out.
Mm.
And we have a list of bullet points where someone can get involved and volunteer for different areas within our organization, such as outreach, um, community outreach, um, communication management, things like that.
Okay. So for those of you guys just listening in, make sure you guys check that out, mvj.network. Go on that website, and if you guys are interested in volunteering. So Babee, one last question before we go to our second segment here. What's one thing you want our listeners to take away from this episode?
I would say that there are a lot of good veterans who are continuing their sense of service by being journalists. And, we, of course, are all too familiar with serving others,
Mm.
servicing others, and the commitment to continue to serve is still lingering. There are a lot of veterans who, they get out of the military, they're wondering, what do I do next? How do I serve others?
Yeah, they still want to serve, but
Exactly.
they're just trying to
And
find a different way.
exactly. And journalism is a public service. We're informing the public on, what they need to know. And, it's with the news landscape that it's going in now, we need as much, accurate, fast information as we possibly can. And to know that military veterans are contributing to the cause, to the fight, to, not carry on disinformation. And
Mm.
I want the public to know that they can trust veterans in journalism. The way, the way that some people, you know, view veterans, while we're in service, they, um, we have these holidays, where um, people thank us and, appreciate us or whatever. And it's all awesome. But, you know, there are veterans like our community that are still doing excellent things and applying what they learned in the military and continuing to serve others. So I guess that's the last and final thing I'd like to encourage people, um, what I would like for people to get out of this discussion.
Continue your service. Journalism is another way to serve the community and our nation. So Awesome, man. So, baby, so this is our second segment of our episode. So basically, this is the same 5 questions I asked all my guests. So are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So first question? What's one hobby you enjoy?
Scrapbooking.
Scrapbooking. Okay. Second question, if you had to choose one person, dead or living, to hang out with for one day, who would it be and why?
It's Lady Gaga. I'm a huge fan. I've been a huge fan of hers for, since she got out. And I love her so much. I love um, the fact that she stands up for not bullying other people, and I just think that she's an incredible artist. She's a versatile artist that does everything from play instruments to working the crowd and just acting,
Right.
and she does it all.
Yeah, I gotta say that movie was pretty good. A Star Is Born.
Yeah,
Yeah.
loved her in that.
All right. So next question, recommend a book for our audience to read.
War Torn. It's a book about female reporters that were sent to Vietnam to report on the war.
So do you know who? Is it like different authors or?
It's different reporters telling their experiences
Okay.
for each chapter.
Wow.
So it's not just it was written by like one author, like it was organized by one author,
Right. Right.
but in actuality there are multiple authors because, there's at least maybe 15 to 20 female reporters.
Chapters.
Yeah.
Okay. So war torn stories of war from the women reporters who covered Vietnam.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So next question. What's your favorite quote and why?
Oh God. I thought I would remember it, but I don't. But I know the premise of it.
Okay.
It is
Yeah.
by Lady Gaga, and she said something about, like, um, your career won't wake up and tell you that they don't love you anymore. It was a quote about, your career and the men that, you choose to date or whatever. And I like that quote, and I have to go back now to view the full quote. But I like that because um I feel that sometimes as our experiences as women, like, we tend to focus on, like, romance and love. And I'm not saying every woman, just some of us. And it's okay to be ambitious and
Right.
to go for what you want. This is the only life that you live. And I I've been a hustler, and I'm happily married to a Marine, but I also have my professional goals, and I will always have him, and I love him, but I also love my career and what I do. So the premise of the quote to me is just, you know, it's okay to be a hardworking woman. And, it's empowering to, to gain that independence and to know what you want out of life, including your professional hustle.
Yeah, that's a great message. I got like a 2-year-old girl right now, and I got another girl on the way in May. So one of the things that comes, just being a girl dad is just being a good role model as a man, as a father to them, and just kind of making sure that they have every opportunity in whatever career that they want to choose. There's no limits, just the limits that they set to them for themselves. So I love your message. Love your message.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that as well. I don't have any kids, but um, I grew up around boys, four brothers.
Mm.
And I'm the
How was
only
that?
girl. I'm very overprotective,
Yeah, yeah,
but it made me stronger in the end to grow up with boys. And yeah, like for your daughters, and I feel like with the news lately, I see more women in leadership,
yeah,
and we have a female vice president, and just these changes, women in sports. I'm seeing it, and we're just I feel like we're becoming more of an unstoppable force to be reckoned with. And I'm sure it's going to be the same for your daughters.
yeah. You see that change now, and just imagine where we'll be in about 10, 20 years or so. So, all right. So, baby, one final question here. What do you see yourself in a year, 5 years, or even 10 years from now?
Mm. In 10 years, I hope to own a house, have kids. I don't know how many. We'll see how one goes first. And then I'll take it from there. Um, and I'm thinking I would like to be a news director one day, just to have a higher leadership position within a TV newsroom. Um, and I just want to continue being happy and live my life with no regrets.
Well, baby, I appreciate you for taking the time, sharing a little bit about your story, the nonprofit, military veterans in journalism. Um, just one last thing, can you tell us where can our audience stay in touch with you? How can they support you and the nonprofit?
Sure. So, everyone who is listening on our discussion, you can follow me on my professional social media accounts. I have a professional Twitter at Babee Garcia. Um, I have a professional Facebook page under the same name, LinkedIn, and Instagram, Babee N Garcia, if you would like to follow me. For military veterans and journalism, make sure you check on our website. Make sure you go on to our Facebook, our Twitter, MVJ Network. That's our account. LinkedIn and YouTube channel, we also post our videos of our lectures and um, things like that we've recorded, and our Instagram as well, which is MVJ Network. Um, so, military veterans and journalism, again, if you'd like to get involved or follow us, and be sure to give my professional accounts a follow too.
Awesome, awesome. So, baby, again, thanks for sharing your story, and talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Thank you for having me.
All right, take care.
Take care. Bye.